Okay, so I'm here to explain what happens when Jupiter goes into the ninth house. This is a pretty simple placement, but let's explain what is the ninth house. The ninth house represents long distance travel. It represents maybe things we might have learned from our father. It represents our gurus we might attract in our life, our teachers we might attract in our life. It represents our belief system. Like I probably already said, long distance travel, higher education, mastering, uh, like a master's degree. The reasons associated with long distance travel is because, before like the internet and all that stuff, in order to become a well-rounded individual, you would have to travel the world, meet different religions, meet different cultures, learn about all those different type of things. Which is why Jupiter, is like our real true intellect, because Mercury, it rules the third house in the sixth house, but the third house is short distance travel, local things, while the ninth house, which is the house that Jupiter rules, represents long distance travel, broadening the horizon, seeing the bigger picture. So Jupiter it just represents more so of a well-rounded knowledge. But that's why the ninth house is associated with long distance travel and higher education. This is a house that's all about, just finding God. So this is like a house where like religions can just be created because you're putting your interpretation of God into your own words. So it's a very spiritual, religious, philosophical, intellectual house. Short and simple. Someone with a great ninth house with great planets in there, they would be very keen to wanting to learn and preach and teach philosophical, deep, spiritual things. Someone who might have maybe not the best planets aspect in the ninth house or sitting in the ninth house, these people, they might be atheists or really might not believe in God for whatever reason or whatever. That's essentially what the ninth house is. And Jupiter in Sagittarius originally rules this house. And what is Jupiter? Jupiter represents divine knowledge, divine wisdom. It represents our belief systems. A well-placed Jupiter can make you very good at astrology and mysticism and Reiki and all that good stuff. Jupiter can represent husband in a woman's birth chart. And that's just about it for Jupiter. So when you put Jupiter in this house, the significations of Jupiter it's just amplified, because this house is everything that Jupiter represents. It represents everything that Jupiter is about. So I don't know. It's like Jupiter times 100. It's just multiplied. So someone with Jupiter in the ninth house, they could have learned a lot from their father. They could have, their father could have been someone who was very intellectual, very wise, instilled a lot of wisdom in you. They might have instilled or tried to enforce their religion and belief system or politics or whatever into you, possibly. We see that you are someone who would maybe have a very philosophical and deep and spiritual way of communicating with people. You yourself, you would just naturally just be into all the things in relation and association to the ninth house. You might be someone who would probably want to instill and you probably want to be someone who instills a lot of wisdom and maybe your belief systems and whatnot on your children when you have kids. You could be someone who is very prone to wanting to take a lot of trips. You probably just want to take a lot of trips and travel, either for an intellectual, knowledgeable, higher purpose and higher reason, or maybe just in general, just for leisure. But we can see that you might have a strong desire to want to travel, take trips, and maybe go on pilgrimages, or maybe fly to like Arizona and go to Sedona, look at the Grand Canyons and whatnot. like I said, Jupiter in the ninth house is just someone who would just be very interested in philosophical things, maybe tarot, if that's how they feel, connects them to God. Astrology, if they feel as though learning about the stars connect them to God or a universe or a higher power or whatever. These are the people who could be just very good preachers, very good at sharing and expressing their belief system, and they would be strong, and they could strongly identify with their belief system, with whatever they believe in. And this could be the dangerous side of Jupiter in the ninth house, because Jupiter can be a very egotistical planet, which is why Jupiter gains directional strength in the first house, which is why Jupiter does very strong in the first house. Jupiter and Mercury, they gain directional strength. Digbala, they are very strong in the first house, because when someone has a lot of knowledge, they can feel very cocky and arrogant and egotistical and look down on people who are not maybe as intellectual or book savvy as them. They can think that because they've learned and read so much, that what they said is law, that what they said is facts. You know, like this can like manifest, for example, like racism. Someone just thinks that they could have grown up, someone taught them that their race is better than another race, and they believed it, and they adhered strongly to that belief system, and now they spread it, and we got racism, you know. Short and simple, some of Jupiter in the ninth house, they can strongly identify their belief system. So it is important that you all be careful and cautious with the information that you absorb, the things that you believe in, because y'all can strongly and easily think that whatever you've learned is law, whatever you learned is the truth, and anyone who is not with you or don't believe the same things that you believe in are against you. Jupiter can also literally represent, you know, laws and lawmakers and managers, because like I said, this is Jupiter in the ninth house is all about traveling and learning and finding God, and you make your own interpretations of what God is, and then you make that into laws and rules, and you know, you just spread it to the world and make your own religions and whatnot. And you know, like I said, Jupiter just represents lawmakers in general. You feel as though that some rule needs to be established to make the society or the world run smoother, and you know, you just enforce it, whatever. But that's basically all I gotta say with Jupiter in the ninth house. I hope that it gave you insight and clarity on yourself if you have Jupiter in the ninth house, and thank you for watching.